Can Bitcoin really hold 60K now, or is it going to drop significantly further? And what all of this would mean for Kaspa, XRP, Internet Computer, and also Supra, for example, we'll go through all of that in this video. Hi, I'm Marius from 10x Analytics, and on my channel, it's all about data and not about hype. In this video, we'll go through all the macro data so that you can fully understand where we actually stand in the overall market. After that, we'll dive back into the detailed chart analyses. As I said, I always look at all the altcoins, of course, Kaspa, Internet Computer, Supra, XRP, but also many others, and Bitcoin too, of course. Then you'll have the full context of where the altcoins and Bitcoin currently stand. And also when I personally see an entry point again and why I believe it's going to go down even further. But this way, you'll stay fully up to date. But let's start with the most important thing first. Namely, the overall market is currently assessed as bearish based purely on data. That's always important to know. We have a fear and greed of 19, which also means bearish right now because there's still quite a lot of fear in the market, which is normal in a bear market. The Altcoin Season Index is at 36, meaning Bitcoin season, which remains bearish for altcoins as well. Bitcoin dominance has actually switched to neutral, simply because at 55.8, some altcoins are currently outperforming Bitcoin. It could just be that some people are moving into altcoins now because they think the bottom is near. That's why Bitcoin dominance is back to being a bit neutral at the moment. The crypto market cap, well, slightly changed, slightly up from last week, but only very slightly. Still in the neutral range though. We're not exactly in a mega bullish phase here. Funding rates, which are the derivatives, are in the neutral range. Open interest is in the bearish range too, down 2.1% in 24 hours. Liquidations in the last 24 hours, 110 million longs liquidated and 70 million shorts. Generally though, it's rather bearish here as well. Now we come to the flows and liquidity. One of the most important drivers, especially for risk assets, is liquidity. Bitcoin ETF flows are at minus 1.2 billion or 1.2 billion in plain English. And that is of course bearish. So we've seen that an extreme number of companies have sold their ETFs for Bitcoin. The exchange flows, meaning how much Bitcoin is going onto exchanges in this case, which means they could potentially be sold, are plus 8.2k Bitcoin over the last 7 days. That's also rather bearish because quite a lot is being moved onto the exchanges. Stablecoin liquidity is also in the bearish range here at the moment, and the M2 money supply liquidity is also rather bearish because it's falling. So much for the flows and liquidity for now. Let's move on to the macro data. On one hand, the DXY is slightly in the green. The US 10Y is, let's say, at 4.48. The lower it is, the better it actually is. And the VIX. All in all, the macro winds are also blowing rather bearishly here. The Fed, which is the Central Bank of America, logically the interest rate hasn't changed for now. The next meeting is on the 29th of July, so at the end of this month. And the chance that nothing continues to happen, meaning a pause, is predicted at 70%. Then the catalysts in the coming weeks. We have the US CPIS, which are the inflation data, on the 24th of July. Then we have the FOMC meeting, as mentioned, on July 29th. Then Bitcoin options, which are expiring again, are on the 25th of July, and we have Ethereum options on the 25th of July. This can lead to volatility or even lead to selling pressure. So I'll get the chart ready here first so that you can see everything here. So I think that fits. Good, let's start with Bitcoin for now, as always. We had seen with Bitcoin, we went down here to 57,800 approximately. My indicator had formed a small green dot here, by the way, signifying a bullish trend reversal. And then we also went upwards. That was roughly around here. After that, we went up by about 4%, 5%, 4.3%. So first of all, for Bitcoin, it is a positive sign. Why I would still be cautious is simply due to the overall stock market situation. Let's go over here to the S&P 500. We are still at the all-time high here. Right, here was the all-time high. We are still close to it, But currently you can tell if you look a bit closer. Exactly all-time high, then down. Didn't break the previous all-time high. Down again. Again, no. So in other words, it's getting lower. That actually suggests we'll see a major correction in the near future. I also think artificial intelligence stocks were hyped so much. In some cases, they have risen so extremely. A crash will happen sooner or later. That is completely normal. And after that, the crypto sector will naturally be pulled down too. And that's why I still assume that we could see lower prices. But let's move on to the topic of altcoins. First, let's look at all altcoins, where Bitcoin and stablecoins are not included. It's a similar picture again if you look at it that way. We have a small green dot here, initially a bullish trend reversal. Then it pushed up a little bit more. But here too, there is definitely still room to the downside. Now let's go through the various altcoins. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum also had a small green dot here, a bullish trend reversal. After that, we rose by approximately 5.7%. Otherwise, as I said, the exciting zones for me are when it goes down here within this range and we land here, and a large green dot forms. Solana has performed strongly, it must be said. To be honest, it doesn't surprise me. But whether that's sustainable is another question. You just have to be a little careful now, namely the following. We had the small green dot. We then pushed up by about 13, 14, 15%. And you can already see we've left the neutral zone range and are slowly entering the overbought zone. Meaning I'd wait until we land up here somewhere, it might go a bit higher. Here, a large red dot forms and then it would go down again under normal circumstances. And if a large green dot appears here, somewhere down in the oversold zone, then that's an exciting zone for me, which I would also watch if I were you. Then let's look at Kaspa. Kaspa also had a pretty strong move, I have to say. If you look at this small green dot, then about a 15-16% move. Here too, we're entering the middle zone, back into the more neutral zone. And here, as I said, I'd also be cautious right now simply because of the overall situation. If Kaspa eventually goes down and we get back here and then a big green dot forms, then it'll get exciting. If you don't want to miss that, you can join the 10x Insider. On one hand, it's completely free. I do regular chart updates there on Kaspa as well, or you just use the indicator itself. You can get all the info right here. I have a QR code here. You can just scan it and then you'll get all the info. And right now there's also a 30% discount promotion going on here. So normally the indicator would cost $35 a month, but you can also choose a year. Currently it only costs $24 with code 10x. That's a very fair offer for the indicator. Otherwise, as I said, you can take a look at everything. Then let's move on. Internet computer. Internet computer is actually very popular on my English channel, interestingly enough. Personally, I'm also an internet computer fan. Purely from a technology standpoint, they're extremely strong. Purely in terms of the chart, they've also had extreme outliers. So they've had massive increases every now and then, for example here by 250%, then here again by 50% here, by 81%, so the coin is definitely not dead. I also made another video about internet computer, I'll link it for you up here, very much worth seeing. In any case, internet computer currently also in terms of the chart, small green dot, but here again I'd wait until we land down here. Then Supra, also very popular. An exciting zone has now emerged for Supra, namely a big green dot. Meaning we're now oversold on Supra. This is definitely an exciting zone now for further analysis. And as you can see, there's still a bit of room to the downside. So it can still push lower. But we definitely have a positive sign for Supra at the moment. Then XRP. Yeah, XRP actually similar to all the others too. Small green dot, bullish trend change. Generally looks from a chart perspective. Already good, but as I said, with all the macro data and especially the stock market, I'd be careful right now. Let's get to SUI. How does it look for SUI? Small green dot there as well. Then we went upwards. Actually quite decent, almost 8 to 9%. But here too, we're now coming back into the middle range. Personally, I'd wait here until we land down here. And then, for me personally, exciting zones for entry emerge. Then what else are we looking at? Chronos, some of you had also asked. I'm happy to go into that. An exciting zone has actually developed for Chronos now. Big green dot. So an oversold zone. After that, we already pushed upwards, about 5 to 6%. We'll have to see how sustainable the move is. But even there, at the moment, everything actually suggests that you should first, well, personally, I'd wait until the stock correction happens, and after that, I'll be looking for entry points. Exactly, that's it for now with the chart analysis. By the way, you're welcome to follow me on X here. I post regular chart updates there as well. That way, you'll always stay fully up to date. I'm on Kaspa, Bitcoin, but also Internet Computer, Hype for example, Alchemy Pay, so there are regular chart updates here too, on X. Thanks for watching. And I'll link another video for you here, which is also extremely exciting. I just filmed that one recently. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.